and welcome to the Quarterback's Room. We're glad you're joining us today. Just a reminder, the Quarterback's Room is brought to you by Florida Football Prep for all your football needs. Be it customized team gear, the best training around with trainers like the Jake Medlock Passing Academy, or just if you need fully prepared, game-ready footballs, Florida Football Prep is there for you. So with the spring league starting up and getting ready for fall football, if your team needs fan gear or just gear for your athletes, contact Florida Football Prep because we can build out anything that you will need. We set up your own page for your own team, and we'll use your designs, and you'll have some great gear at affordable prices for your athletes and for your fans. So go to www.floridafootballprep.com. I say again, that's www.floridafootballprep.com. So, Miles, we're getting ready for the combine, or we're in the combine right now, and it's been kind of interesting to watch the different comparisons of athletes and what's going on between conferences and who's fast, who's not fast, who's the better graded quarterbacks. Who do you think has the better show at the combine versus what they've done during the season, how they worked out over time? What are your thoughts so far on the combine?
Quarterbacks aren't that great. Running backs look great. DBs look pretty good. A lot of skill. There's a lot of positions that look great, but some don't look that great. I think the worst looking one is the quarterbacks.
So when you say the quarterbacks don't look that great, I've kind of been saying this for a bit that this quarterback class is pretty average. If you look at these guys, no offense to them, but it's just they just haven't stood out to me. So when you look at the grades they've given them, I don't think anybody's ranked above a 6.39, and I think that's Cam Ward. And a 6.39, if you didn't know, means that guy is going to be what, Miles?
6.89.
Yeah, or 6.39.
Oh, potential plus quarterback, I think is what it is.
Yeah, so what that means is as a potential plus quarterback, someday you might start and be a decent starter, but someday. It's not anybody's going to step in and be an immediate help to the team. So when you look at some of these guys, and the highest graded one is Cam Ward, and he had a pretty good season at Miami, but he's not going to be able to come in, according to the grades anyway, not expected to come in, be a starter, not expected to be a starter year two. He's going to be eventually a plus starter. So why are teams looking at drafting him number one, number two in the first round? To me, it would make more sense for some of these teams to go out with this weak quarterback class, go fill your other needs, pull in guys that you need, maybe potentially go look at veteran quarterbacks, journeymen that have been out there a little bit to plug that gap if you have because a lot of teams need quarterbacks. I mean, the Giants, they need a quarterback. Who else do you think needs to fill that hole? Have you thought about that at all?
No, not really. I mean, the Raiders kind of need a quarterback.
But, I mean, is there anybody on this list that you see, Miles, that you think can jump in and be a starter on year one?
Possibly Jaxson Dart, but...
Why Jaxson Dart?
He throws the ball well, his footwork looks great. Yeah. And he's got a high football IQ.
So, yeah, I've said that about Jaxson Dart for a while, that I thought of all the quarterbacks, I think he may be the biggest surprise. A lot of people keep being high on Shedeur Sanders. What are your thoughts on Shedeur?
I mean, he has a ton of weaknesses, like throwing it deep on the run, throwing it on the run. His footwork isn't that great. He's scared to throw incompletions, and he just runs out of bounds whenever no one's open.
Yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of folks have talked about with him is that he tries to get his stats looking good because he doesn't like to throw the ball out of bounds. He'll take a sack or he'll run out of bounds instead of throwing the ball away, which can be a weakness and something you have to look at in the NFL. I think there's been a lot of hype around him, and I think that when you look at it, will he live up to the hype? And is the hype because he's a great quarterback, or is the hype, Miles, about him being
Deion's son?
Deion's son. What do you think?
I think it's Deion's son.
Well, I mean, they did have a decent season at Colorado,
but they didn't play like any good teams.
And then they got boot stomped by
BYU.
By BYU in the bowl game, and yeah, that was a pretty that was a pretty crazy game. What are your other thoughts? So, some of the other quarterbacks that surprised me that came out, Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
What did you think of Jalen?
I mean, I don't think he's that great. He didn't look great this season. I mean, his hands have grown like the whole inch since the Senior Bowl, but
his hands grew an inch.
Yeah, I saw something saying that. They went from like 8 3/4 to 9 2/8.
And that's talking about and hold one of your hands up. Okay, so Miles's hands are like, I think 8 now, aren't they? Or close to it when I measured it?
I think they're like 7 something.
Okay, and you're 11. I think a lot of your coaches always look at how you grip the ball and how your hands are positioned on that, and are always kind of impressed with that because you have relatively large hands for your age. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with this quarterback draft. And my advice to NFL teams would be, if I was going to do it, if you do not desperately need a quarterback, then don't pay somebody that's going to sit on your bench. Don't pay them first round money. Pay that money to somebody that's going to help your team. Somebody that's going to be a good running back to take the pressure off your quarterback. Somebody that's going to be an offensive lineman that's going to protect the quarterback. Somebody that's going to be a defensive lineman and help your defense if you have a weak defense. Fill those gaps first. You don't need to pay somebody who's going to sit on your bench first round money if they're going to probably never even start for you, or if they do, it's not going to be a pretty situation. Just my 2 cents on the whole quarterback situation. And here's what's sad. If you look at where we are at quarterbacks in the NFL coming up, I think having NFL teams having to develop quarterbacks is going to become more of the norm versus the exception. Miles, why do you think of that? I'm saying that
because most college teams don't develop any quarterbacks anymore.
And why is that?
Because they just grab a bunch of quarterbacks out of the portal.
But here's the interesting thing. Eventually, they're going to run out of quarterbacks that are decent in the portal. Somebody's going to have to develop them. And so what's going to probably happen is the junior colleges, the FCS schools, those are all going to end up being basically feeder systems to the higher level football, and people are going to use the transfer portal to pull up somebody so they don't have to develop them. Or if you're smart at the college level, you will go back to recruiting quarterbacks and developing them over time. And something that might help that eventually, I know one of the big drawbacks right now is with the transfer portal and nil, you're going to have a quarterback that you develop, and the next thing you know, he's going to be gone. And you've wasted 2 years or whatever developing this kid, and you've taught him how to be a good quarterback and develop him, and bam, he's gone. So how do you think you fix that, Miles?
Just bring in a bunch of, try to get a lot of what do you call it, chemistry with a bunch of freshman quarterbacks. Just start bring in low star freshmen and start just building them up from the bottom.
But do you think that, look, in today's society, in today's culture within college football, there doesn't seem to be a lot of loyalty to a team. I've seen things of guys talking about how much they love their team, and the next thing you know, they're in the portal. I think what's going to end up happening with Nil is you're going to start getting long-term contracts, kind of like NFL contracts, kind of like coaching contracts. You know, people have always said, oh, coaches get paid big money. It's time the players get it. Okay, I'm fine with that. But have the same restrictions. So if you're a player that comes in, you're getting Nil from and you recruited to my school, and I'm paying you name, image, likeness, or revenue sharing, or wherever it goes. You should have a multi-year contract, and it'll have incentives, it'll have everything else, and that's the NCAA is going to have to change. They're just going to have to embrace this, but players are going to have contracts, and if another team sniffs around and wants this player, there's going to be a penalty for breaking your contract. Either the team that's trying to pull him pays a buyout, or the athlete themselves pays a buyout. That's where it's got to go. Otherwise, it's just going to be year in, year out, people jumping teams constantly. And it's the bad part is it's going to be detrimental to the game, and it's detrimental to the players themselves because they'll never really get developed. Their skills won't translate. Now, why am I talking about all this now with the NFL Combine going on? Because you're going to end up with weaker and weaker and weaker quarterback and every other class where these kids are not being developed in college anymore. So now it's going to become incumbent on the NFL teams to bring a player in and expect to develop them for 2 or 3 years before they're able to start in the NFL. And the NFL doesn't want to waste that kind of money on kids. Think about it. You're paying a quarterback $5, $10, $15 million a year to sit on a bench for 3 years. That's a $45 million investment that you've just made in a kid that may or may not pan out. You don't want to do that. That's a waste of money. And you got to remember, the NFL is a business. It is a business. And unfortunately today, college football is a business. So college football's got to change. The NCAA has to fix this. And the NFL, it behooves the NFL to help the NCAA fix this, because otherwise you're going to continue to have players that aren't going to improve, and the NFL is going to have to develop them and while paying them a lot of money. Or they're going to build another level, and then you're going to end up with players with much shorter NFL careers, because instead of playing in the NFL at 21, 22 years old, you won't start until you're 26, 27, because you've been sitting around on the bench getting developed, and you're going to have 1 or 2 good years. So you're looking at teams investing 2 years into a 21-year-old. He's done at 23 getting developed. He starts at 24. He's got maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years of usable playing time left if he hasn't been injured already. And you've got teams dropping a $45 million investment into a kid that plays 2 or 3 years in the NFL. And it's just not a sustainable model. Anyway, any final thoughts on the combine or on the draft, Miles, or on the combine or transfer portal, etc.?
I mean, I just know that RJ Harvey's going to be a steal.
I agree with you. RJ Harvey is a stud. We know him personally. He's a great kid. Whoever drafts him is going to get just a winner. So RJ, you can slide me that $20 now. No, just kidding. But yeah, RJ Harvey, stud. Draft him. You guys will love him. So this next topic we want to talk about kind of flows into this, and this is a direct kind of ties in directly with the college hitting the transfer portal. I keep seeing reports, Miles, of high schoolers not getting recruited.
Okay.
And kids that are balled out in high school, they're not even getting a sniff from D1, even D2, sometimes FCS. They're not getting any sniffs at all in the recruiting arena. And I think this goes back to the transfer portal. What do you think?
Yeah. And maybe some of them are not going to a lot of camps. That's a great way to get some recognition.
Yeah, so what I think is going on a lot of, and I saw one of the coaches do a clip on this. I forget who it was. Talking about he used to give offers and bring in 5, 6 DBs, 5, 6 offensive linemen. But now they're just dipping in the portal. So they're looking for one or two high schoolers, because otherwise they're just pulling their needs from the portal. And what's happening is a lot of these kids that are really, really in high school that are really balling out aren't getting the looks they should, because honestly the teams are going in, dipping into portal, saying I need a linebacker. Well, do I recruit one from high school that I can put in the farm thing and I can develop him in 2 or 3 years? You know, the old model was you came in, you redshirted your freshman year. Your freshman year, maybe you got to play a little bit, maybe some special teams. Your sophomore year, very similar. Some studs would probably start in their sophomore year. Junior year, you're a starter. Maybe you're a 2-year starter, or you're in the NFL after your junior year. But that was the old model. Now today with the transfer portal, you've got guys that show up and they literally, if you're not starting them their freshman year, they'll leave. I'm not getting snaps. I'm out. If you look at guys and by their sophomore year, if they're not getting any snaps, they're out. Now, what else happens? Teams like Alabama, teams like Ohio State, they used to be able to stack tons of 4 and 5 stars. Remember that, Miles?
Yeah.
So they would stack all kinds of, look at Alabama's quarterback room, Georgia's quarterback room before the transfer portal really hit. Who did Alabama have at one point?
Bryce Young. Well,
No, go back further.
I don't know.
Who just won the Super Bowl?
Jalen Hurts.
Uh-huh.
But he went to Oklahoma.
From?
Alabama.
And he was the starter until Tua took over. So they had guys that would start at multiple other schools as backups and third string at some of these schools, but guys couldn't leave. Now, once they loosened up the transfer portal, you got a lot of this stuff where these guys wouldn't stick around. So now it's, if you're not starting me and if I think I can make some money somewhere, I'm gone and I'm going to go make some cash. So bottom line is all of this is impacting recruiting for high schoolers. So my advice to high school prospects: A, ball out. Go to as many camps, get as much recognition as you can, especially prospect camps where you're invited. Go to some of the mega camps where if there's enough of the colleges that are looking at guys, you may get a look and get some attention. And don't be hung up on going to a certain school. If a school is showing you a lot of interest and they really want you, then give that school the respect that they probably are giving you. They're interested in you. Go where you can play. Go where you can make a difference. And you know what? Eventually you may end up at an Alabama or an Ohio State if you go to a Temple or you go to a Memphis and ball out. They're going to dip into that portal and they're going to pull you. All right. So go where you know you can play. Go where you're wanted. That would be my advice to guys on the high school recruiting trail. You think? Yeah,
it's pretty accurate.
I mean, we had a kid. Do you remember the kid from Flagler?
Yeah.
How many yards did he throw for?
3,400, I think it was.
How many touchdowns?
42, I think.
How many interceptions?
1.
3,400 yards passing, Division 7 in Florida. And I think he rushed for like 500-600 yards too, and another like, I don't know how many touchdowns, 5 or 6 touchdowns that way, if not more. But kid went to Flagler High School, 7A, one of the larger divisions in Florida. Did that. Was not getting any looks. He's probably going to end up Division 2 or FCS.
Has he committed anywhere?
I don't think so. I got to check on that. But a great kid. And if you're listening and you're wondering who that is, the kid's name is Hayden Hayes out of Flagler High School, Flagler, Palm Coast. Great kid. Tall, 4.0 student, just great kid. So if you're listening to this and you need a quarterback and you want to recruit one, I've just given you a recruiting tip. So there you go. So Miles, as we're winding down here a little bit, let's talk about you.
Okay.
How'd your season go? You finished last Thursday.
5-0.
5-0. And what else?
28 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Undefeated.
I think I can take that in 5 games. What I thought was really interesting about your games and your for the season, you guys outscored your opponents 186 to 12. 186 to 12, and half your team had never even played football before.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, man. The last game was a little rough, though.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that at all?
I mean, I'll just say that the ref was terrible.
All right, I'll put some clips up later on, and I'll share the video from the game. But when I had the bystanders coming up to me and going, "What is going on with this referee?" Because they were calling penalties on Miles's team left and right, not a single one on the other team. Even when people were pointing out what the other team was doing, like turning their flags backwards, stuff like it's illegal. Wouldn't call a penalty on them. It was a rough game for you guys, but you pulled it together, and you won, and you came up victorious, and I am very proud of you. Now what's next for Miles for the rest of summer, or spring and summer?
Tackle conditioning.
And camps?
Yeah, and camps.
So I'll bring that up. So if you have a football camp and you would like to get some publicity, we will come to, if you want Miles to participate, we will come, we will film the camp, and we'll put it out there for an episode. So it would be good for you and good publicity for you. We don't charge you anything, and it would be fun for Miles and get some exposure for your guys. With that being said, which I notice I say that a lot, which I need to get better at that. We wanted to just remind you to go and like and subscribe to the Quarterbacks Room. We're on Instagram, Facebook, where else? YouTube, and Spotify, iTunes. We're everywhere on all the different platforms. So come like, subscribe, give us those 5-star reviews. It would be great. Again, just a reminder, if your team needs customized gear, Florida Football Prep is the place for you. If you have a camp and you're trying to make camp gear, Florida Football Prep can help you with that too. Low prices, quick response time. From shot to bang, you're going to get your merchandise probably within a week to 2 weeks. So not bad when you're having custom made gear. So go to www.floridafootballprep.com. That's www.floridafootballprep.com. And until next time, we'll see you back here in the Quarterbacks Room.